Now, in the comment section of my last video on what Liverpool's summer window might look like, I got asked an awful lot of questions about returning loanees and what impact they might be able to have on the first team squad next season. And to be honest, it's something I get asked an awful lot, and it makes sense because, look, these players at times can be almost like a new signing, can't they? I mean, you think in recent history, Liverpool have had Jarell, Quansah and Conor Bradley come back and play a big role at centre-half and right-back respectively. And it's not just important for fans to see these players coming through, but also for the sporting director. I mean, look, if you can save money on a fourth-choice centre-half or a second-choice right-back, you can plough that into getting the best centre-forwards you can possibly get, or paying the most wages you potentially can to someone like Mohamed Salah, for example. So it's very, very important that these loans turn into something and that these players take those experiences and bring them back to Liverpool and can use them to make an impact on Arne Slot's squad. So I thought I'd have a look at who Liverpool have got out on loan at the moment and whether they're showing any potential to do that next season. I'm going to go through them in position order, starting at the back, and so that means I will start with the goalkeepers. Now, I'm going to start with Georgi Mamardashvili. Now, it's not actually a loan, this, technically. By the sounds of things and people I'm talking to, it's actually basically what Liverpool have done is put an agreement in place that they will sign him this summer coming, rather than signing him last summer and loaning him back. But of course, he is a player who's out there playing at the moment that we know is going to come into Liverpool next season. So it's important to know how he's kind of getting on. And you have to say, actually, it's not been a great season for him. Now, last season, the reason he stood out so much, he was one of the best performing goalkeepers in all European top 5 leagues, really. So he was overperforming his post-shot expected goals by 10.2 goals, so essentially conceding 10 fewer goals than he should have been for the shots he was facing. Now this season that's kind of flipped a little bit and he's conceded 4.4 more goals than would have been expected with the shots he's faced. But it's something he's admitted himself, his form has not been the best, but I would also say that sometimes fortune comes into this quite a lot for goalkeepers. I mean, we've seen Alisson go either side of that figure at times in his Liverpool career, and there's no question about how good he is. And of course, Valencia not performing well at all this season, so that has played a big part, hasn't it? Now, I don't think it's going to give Liverpool any second thoughts or anything like that, and I did mention in my video about Liverpool's summer that the big question about Mamardashvili is, yes, he's keen to come and he's keen to be first choice, but it's all about what Alisson kind of decides to do going into next season and whether he wants to entertain that Saudi interest. So that will be a big talking point around that. But I guess with Mamardashvili, he's maybe not shown his best this season, and maybe a season where he's adapting and his second choice at Liverpool might be helpful to his development, and he is still a young goalkeeper as well. But let's kind of see how that one plays out. But it hasn't been the best season for him, this one, you have to admit that much. Now, in terms of other goalkeepers that are out there at the moment, we've got Fabian Mrozek, who's only 21 years old. He joined Forest Green Rovers in February, so the back end of that mid-season window. And as I say, he's a really young player at the moment, so particularly for a goalkeeper to be 21, still got a long way to go in terms of your development. He only signed a new deal in 2024, so he's contracted for a little while yet. But as I say, very, very young player at the moment. Not someone I expect to see part of the first team squad next season, not least because Liverpool at the moment are looking like they've got Alisson, Mamardashvili, Kelleher hasn't been sold yet, and of course Jarosz is there as well. So with Mrozek, I guess next season will be a case of another loan for him and see how he gets on in terms of his development. But he is, by all accounts, quite a talent, so let's see how he goes in terms of that. Now I'm going to move into the defenders now, and there's a few here that I think are quite easy to wrap up in terms of what their future will look like. Of course, Nat Phillips is out of contract at the end of the season. He's currently on loan at Derby, but he will leave the club at the end of the season, and I think he'll leave with everyone's best wishes when you think of the role he's played at times coming in as a fourth or fifth choice. He's helped Liverpool through injury crises, hasn't he? And of course, played a big part in them scraping into the top 4 in that season that was played behind closed doors. So he'll always be well regarded because of that. But of course, it's time for him to move on, isn't it? And go and play regular football elsewhere. And pretty similar with Reece Williams. Again, he was alongside Nat Phillips, wasn't he, in that season? And he's currently on loan at Morecambe. Now, he does have a year of his contract left at the end of this season, I believe. And he is doing well for Morecambe at the moment, by all accounts. But of course, that doesn't mean that he's ready now at the age of 24 to step up to Liverpool. So I guess it's a case of seeing where the interest is in him at the end of the season. And I imagine there will be, because I think he's shown promise there. But obviously, it's not quite Liverpool level that he'll be bringing back into the first team squad. But of course, I do hope he does get a good move because he deserves it. And another one Another couple really around that age. Lucas Stevenson is 21 years old. He's at Dundee United at the moment. I would expect when you're being loaned to that level at the age of 21, that means that you're very likely to be moved on. Liverpool, of course, will be open to permanent moves at that point. James Norris as well. He's at Shelburne in the Irish League at the moment. He's on loan there till November. Promising left back. I always quite liked him actually when he was coming through the academy. Always looked like he had a bit about him, and I know he did well relatively recently in a loan spell at Tranmere Rovers, but as I say, he's 21 years of age now, so I guess the move for him after that loan comes to an end is that he will move on permanently and be looking to get a move as high up the pyramid as he possibly can. Now, next few defenders, kind of interesting one about these ones maybe. Luke Chambers, he's currently on loan at Wigan, but it's been a frustrating period for him. You may remember him coming into the team for a Europa League game under Jurgen Klopp, and looked a little bit like he struggled in that game, and maybe the level and the step up was a bit too much, but I've always been quite a big fan of him. He's kind of left-footed, can play left-back, can play left-sided centre-half, although he's maybe not filled out enough to do that at the moment at senior level. But he seemed flexible and a good player. But the problem he's had this season is that he was out from an injury since October, and he's only recently returned, so only come back this month. So he's missed an awful lot of football, and that means he's only made 11 appearances in all competitions for Wigan so far this season. So, as I say, I had high hopes for him, but injuries are just creating issues for him, and he still has a bit of growing to do, I think. So he is only 20 at the moment, so maybe one more loan next season to see where he's up to, albeit I imagine Liverpool are not going to be completely averse to listening for offers for him. But maybe just because of the injury issues he's had, it might not quite be a buyer out there, and it may be a case of one more loan. We'll have to see, but as I said, I don't think he'll be impacting the first team. And another interesting one is the left back Owen Beck. He's currently at Blackburn at the moment, and one of the best performing loanees Liverpool have had this season. Actually, he's doing really, really well there. 24 appearances in all competitions, pretty much a nailed on starter on the left hand side of that defence. But the only issue he's got, and I think he's a very promising player, is that Liverpool are definitely going to make a left back signing this summer, aren't they? Be that Milos Kerkez, Jarell Hatto, they're players that are liked. And of course, Andy Robertson signalled his intention to stick around and try and compete for that shirt. He doesn't want to go anywhere. So, of course, you're going to have your first and second choice left back, whoever that is out of the two. That's going to be pretty much wrapped up. And Owen Beck's not going to want to come back, is he? And sit on the bench and be the third choice left back. Now, he signed a new deal in 2021, which I imagine will have been around 5 years, so should just have 1 year remaining of that. But I think there is potential profit for Liverpool there, because as I say, he'll be ready to move on and really kickstart his career now and get a permanent move. He's 22 years of age, so right time for him to do that. But he's done really well at Blackburn at the moment, so I'm sure if they don't buy him, there will be huge interest elsewhere in the Championship, because he's definitely ready for that level, and maybe ready in a couple of years to step up to the Premier League as well, because I think he is a really promising player, and I've really enjoyed watching him whenever I've seen him now. That just leaves another fullback who I'm a bit interested to see what happens with him this summer. That is Calvin Ramsey. He's currently on loan at Kilmarnock, but he's spending a lot of time on the bench. I believe he's only made 3 appearances since he joined them. This move just has not worked out for him. That should be a level where at the age of 21 he should be coming in and showing what he's all about and being ready to perform at that level, particularly if he wanted to be a Liverpool player. But I don't think that is happening for him at the moment, so I expect him to return to Liverpool this summer. And then a case of, I don't think he's going to make it at Liverpool now. I don't think it's too harsh to say that. So it's a case of, can you find a buyer, or is it another loan? But I don't think he will be part of the Liverpool first team squad next season, that's for sure. Now I'm going to move on to the midfielders now, and just quickly talk about Dominic Cornès. Again, he kind of comes into that category of 21 years of age. He's playing for Gillingham in League 2 on loan at the moment, not playing particularly often. So again, if he's not ready for that level and it's not kind of working out for him there, you wonder what his next move will be. Obviously won't be part of the Liverpool squad at the moment. So again, can you get him a better loan where he's more, the manager's more willing to play him and he can show what he's all about? Because again, quite like watching him at academy level as well. So we'll see what happens with him, but he won't be part of the Liverpool first team squad. And that just leaves, in terms of the midfielders, for me, the most fascinating story out of all the returning loanees this summer, and that is, of course, Stefan Bajcetic. Now, he is at Las Palmas at the moment in Spain. He spent the first half of the season at RB Salzburg until Pep Lijnders got sacked. And I'm just so interested to see what Arne Slot thinks of him. Now, I have seen some quotes recently saying, comparing him to Sergio Busquets in terms of playing style. Like I say, I'm not sure in terms of the level maybe, but maybe in terms of the playing style, that will be an accurate description of him. And I must say, I was so convinced about him when he did break through into the first team. I mean, he definitely had the frame, he had the ability to break up play, he was a decent passer of the ball as well. It's just all a case of, look, if this guy fills out, then he is going to be a top player. But unfortunately, he got injuries at a key time in his development, didn't he? And that really set him back a little bit. So, last summer when that came around and he was loaned out, I was a little bit surprised. But people at Liverpool, sources at Liverpool, were saying to me, it's just a case of we need to get some minutes into him. We need to get him to the physical level, and then we'll have a look. So to me, that spells out really that this coming pre-season is absolutely massive for Bajcetic. Can he prove to the manager that he's ready to play at this level and he wants to be part of this squad? I really hope so, because I think he's a big talent, but we've seen in the past, if he isn't quite there, Slot is absolutely ruthless. I mean, you look at the sale of maybe Bobby Clark, which came as a surprise. He played some first team minutes in the season prior and he was moved out. So it's a case of, is Bajcetic going to be at that level? Is he going to be ready? Pre-season for me is absolutely massive for him. So really interested to see how he gets on, because look, if Liverpool could avoid signing a midfielder and this guy was ready to play significant minutes next season, that would help them in terms of all the other business we've spoken about. They've got to do this summer, but it's all about what he does in pre-season and whether he can prove that point. So very, very interested to see how he gets on. Now I'm going to move into the forwards now. And I'll start with Ben Doak, who's at Middlesbrough. Another one who, maybe there was a little bit surprised that he was loaned out. He was, in and around the first team under Jurgen, wasn't he? Jurgen always talked very, very highly of him, but then he was farmed out to Middlesbrough on loan, and the idea was to get some minutes into him, go and show what you're all about. And by all accounts, doing very, very well. 3 goals and 7 assists in 24 appearances in the Championship, which is not bad at all. But the one thing I would say about this is, it's okay being a decent Championship player at that age. It shows you've got real promise. But of course, the level to play for Liverpool, and the level if you're a forward, is ridiculously high, isn't it? You've got to be one of the top forwards in the world. And the big question around Doak is, yes, you're a promising player, but are you of the level to come in next season and make an actual impact at Liverpool? And I'm not entirely sure. 3 goals and 7 assists maybe suggests that at the moment. Now, one of the reasons I'm doubtful over Doak having a long-term future as well is that Liverpool made it quite clear last summer that they were willing to shake hands on a permanent deal of around 25 million, and they're in a pretty similar position coming into this summer now. If Liverpool are willing to name the price, and privately they are willing to do that, to me it suggests that this player is not going to be a Liverpool player. I think he's going to have a good career. As I say, he's still very young, and to be getting those numbers in the Championship is not bad at all, and I know Middlesbrough fans really like him. But of course, the step up to Liverpool when you are a forward is outrageously high, isn't it? So quite difficult to see him making that step up. And I would not be surprised if there are a few clubs lining up to pay that fee this summer. So we'll see whether he gets his permanent move. And another one who's in around the first team and has made an impact for Liverpool at first team level already is Jayden Danns. Now, of course, he is at Sunderland at the moment, but unfortunately not being able to play so far. I mean, I've made no secret of the fact that I'm a huge fan of Jayden Danns. I think, he's physically there. He's got the ability to sniff out goals. I think the one question mark about him is his ability to link play and do that. But Arne Slot's been, dished out quite a lot of praise for him, and he scores whenever he seemingly gets on the pitch for the first team. But again, one of the big question marks here, I think, is that injury record. Obviously, he missed pre-season due to a back injury. He's now not playing for Sunderland at the moment because of a back injury, and there's some suggestions I've heard that he may not even actually play before this loan is out. I mean, if you think Sunderland get to the playoffs, maybe even get to the playoff final, that gives them a decent chance of maybe getting minutes somewhere. But are you really going to throw in a youngster that you haven't seen in a first team environment when you're in a position where, oh look, if we get beaten here, we are going out, we're not going to get to the Premier League, and there's so much money involved in that. I'm not sure that Sunderland will take that risk. So seems like there's a chance he's not actually going to play before the end of this season, and that means that he's coming back to Liverpool, and it's a massive pre-season for him then, isn't it? An awful lot of pressure on that, and the fact he's missed loan time, it almost makes you think, would Liverpool rather get him fit for pre-season, bring him back, have a little look at him then, but then maybe just give him that loan that he needs to get experience? Because I think he's capable of scoring goals at championship level, and there are a lot of clubs who will be interested if he goes back out there next season. So maybe even Sunderland if they don't come back up. So we'll have to see, but I really do hope he can get fit, get it right, and get some consistent games, whether that be for Liverpool in pre-season or whether he's sent out on loan, because I think there's real promise there. That ability to sniff out goals, that is very, very rare, and he definitely has that. So yeah, really hope he can get fit and show what he's all about. And another one who's on loan in the Championship at the moment is Lewis Kumas. He's at Stoke City. 3 goals and 2 assists in 36 Championship appearances, which are not amazing numbers, obviously, but the fact he's made 36 Championship appearances, I think, suggests that he's obviously doing something right to be in and around the team that much. If he wasn't performing well in some degree, then he wouldn't be near the team that often, would he? And also, it's worth mentioning, Stoke are kind of struggling at the moment. They're not having a great season, so maybe not a great place to go and try and score goals and set them up, because Stoke don't get many at all. And also, he is only 19 years old, so physically, big level to jump up there. And so I think to be playing at a Championship at 19 years of age is, in a struggling team, and get that many games, I think that's really promising from Lewis Kumas, and shows that he's got some real potential. Now, of course, again, that doesn't mean he's ready to come back in and play a lot for Liverpool, but I think it shows that there's potential, as I say, and I think at 19, very much a case of let's get him back out on loan next season and see if he can make another jump in terms of his development, and then see where he's up to after that. And that just kind of leaves Cade Gordon as well, who's at Portsmouth at the moment. I mean, he's still only 20, which seems mad when you think how long he's been in and around that Liverpool first team for. Of course, another one who has lost a lot to injuries really over the last few years. He had been at Norwich in the first half of the season, now at Portsmouth, and you have to say, not really pulling up any trees. And like I say, I think injuries have been a real dampener on his career so far. They are so important that you don't get them at that stage of your development as a young player, but they come for so many players, don't they? What I would say is, because he is now 20, he isn't playing very much at the moment. I think that Liverpool would be happy to sell him when the summer comes around, if the offers and if the money is there. But I really, again, it's another one where you hope he can just stay fit and show what he's all about, because he was a real promising player when he was younger, and he is still only 20. So a long way to go in his career, and if you can get fit, I'm sure he can go and show what he's about at quite a high level. Now, that kind of completes the roundup of the loanees there, really. I mean, I made it sound like there's not a lot of hope of many of these coming in, but as I say, it shows you really that the jump to the level of Liverpool is very, very high. And you had Jarell, Quansah and Conor Bradley coming in the same season. That doesn't happen very often. It is rare that happens. And it also worth mentioning that Quansah in particular, I mean, Bradley absolutely flew at Bolton Wanderers, and Quansah did well on loan, but it was only a half-season loan. It was down lower in the leagues, so he came as a bit of a surprise. So maybe there's some names here I've mentioned who can come in and be that surprise package next season. We'll have to see. And also, I would say that Bajcetic, I think pre-season is absolutely fascinating for him, and maybe he could be the surprise that he comes in and he's ready for the level and can be a big part of what Liverpool do next season. We'll have to see. And of course, beyond that, beyond the loanees, there are a couple of youngsters there in Rio Engamoa and Trey Nyoni, who I think have got a real chance of making an impact at first team level next season. I think the manager wants to get closer to the first team as well, because he's been keeping them around first team training. So I think that's with a view to them getting even more minutes in the coming season. So it's not all bad in terms of where the youngsters are up to. There are a few questions to ask about who might be coming in, and a few interesting stories in there amongst the loanees. But of course, as ever, we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. And always, pre-season is massive, and the summer in terms of sorting out a few of these futures. Now, do let me know in the comments what you think any of the loanees you're particularly interested in seeing given a go. Any of the youngsters maybe at Liverpool at the moment you want to see go out on loan to get that experience. Do let me know in the comments what you think. And I'm going to wrap it up there and say I'll see you guys very soon.